Okay, folks, so here we are, week 5, and if you're up to date and following all of the videos, you'll know that we are preparing for writing a diary entry as one of the characters that we have met in Act 1 of the Crucible. So this page is just to remind you of the things that we looked at last week. So we looked at making sure we had a wide range of vocabulary. A detailed, broad vocabulary available to you, logged in your head, is a fantastic tool to be developing and to have as part of your weaponry as you head towards your GCSE course. Okay, I cannot stress enough how important varied vocabulary is. We also looked at sentence types. Remember, your teacher is going to be looking for simple, compound and complex sentences, varied length sentences, which you use to speed your reader up, to slow your reader down, to shock your reader, to give your reader lots of descriptive detail. We also looked at sentence openers. Adverbs, adjective, pronouns, connectives, prepositions and similes. Okay, making sure we have that variety again. All adverb openers is as bad as all it openers or all adjective openers. We must have variety. And the other thing that we looked at last week was paragraphing, making sure we understand when we need to start a new paragraph. And you can see there in that little image, we can see those paragraph breaks clearly. And as teachers, as soon as we pick up a piece of work, if we can't see those breaks in writing, our shoulders sort of sag a bit, because we know that is really going to impact the grade that we can give you for your writing. Those paragraphs must be used to organise your work, and you must use different length paragraphs. As you can see in that example, we've got 2 meaty paragraphs and then we've got 2 smaller, shorter paragraphs as well. Okay, so that's what we're looking for. And as the little sticky note says, don't forget, all of these things need to be included in your writing. Moving on then, the next thing we're going to consider is punctuation. Now then, punctuation is really, really important. I cannot, again, stress this enough. But punctuating sentences with full stops, even if you put full stops in all the right places, that is not enough to be gaining high marks. You need to use a variety of punctuation marks. And the ones that I'm going to push you to use in this diary are commas, exclamation marks, question marks and semicolons. If you know how to use other punctuation marks, or remember to do so, then that's absolutely fine. But I want to be seeing and I want to be hearing from your teachers that you are using these 4 different punctuation marks. If you're not sure how to use them, don't worry, because I'm going to go over that now. Okay, so commas. Commas to separate items in a list are easy peasy, lemon squeezy. You would have done these in primary school, okay? Started to look at them in lists before you went up to junior school. Okay, so before you left year 2, you would have already been taught how to use commas to separate items in a list. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this. You've got 2 examples there. That should be job done. You just need to make sure you are thinking about your writing and being aware of when you are creating a list. Okay, another easy peasy lemon squeezy use of commas is after an adverb opener. Okay, really easy to remember. So listen for the pause. Silently, the shadowy figure moves through the dark street. Powerfully, the large locomotive steamed through the countryside. Swiftly, the eagle returned to its nest. Angrily, the huge waves crashed over the shore. Okay, so in these examples, not only would you be getting marks because of your sentence structure, because you're beginning with an adverb, with that correctly positioned comma, you would also be building up your marks for punctuation as well. Okay, I don't think that's very difficult, but it does require you to be thinking as you are writing and taking care with your detail. Right, I'm going to hold my hand up. This next comma use is a little trickier, and it does require you to think more and to listen more to what you're writing and to listen more when reading through and checking. So before we look at this comma use, we need to just remind ourselves of independent main clauses and subordinate clause. So we have looked at these before, so let's just recap. An independent clause is a group of words that work by themselves as a sentence. The group of words makes sense on its own and gives us a piece of information. A subordinate clause is a group of words which do not make sense on their own, and they need to be joined by a main or an independent clause so that the whole sentence does make sense. Okay, you will have done these at primary and junior school, so I am just jogging your memory here. You have done all of this before. Right, we need your exercise books or your paper or your devices, whatever you're doing your work on, and I need you to write today's date, and then I need you to write the title, Recognising Clauses and Using Commas Effectively. Pause me, come back to me when you're ready. Okay, so I have given you 10 examples there. Some of them are independent clauses. Independent. If you're independent, that means you can do it on your own. You can cope on your own. So an independent clause is a group of words which make sense on their own. Subordinate clause are a group of words which don't make sense on their own. I've written all of them there as though they're sentences, so that doesn't give any clues away. You need to set out your page as I'm showing you here on the slide, and on the independent clause side you need to write the independent clauses, and on the subordinate clause side, wait for it, exciting, tensions mounting, you need to write the subordinate clauses. Okay, I'm not going to say there are 5 of each, you need to work that out. Might be 6 and 4, who knows. Okay, get that task done and on to the next slide. Right, here's your support page ready for you to check. If you just go through and tick or put a cross next to whether you've got those right or whether you haven't. Okay, you can see the answers on the vanilla magnolia box. I've put subordinate or independent after each of those examples. You, of course, will have written them into your table in your books on your paper. I would like you now, please, to put a subheading using commas to add extra detail. Right, when you've done that, you are going to create sentences out of these 3 sections. So I have given you a table with the first part of the sentence on, the subordinate part, and then the final part. Okay, the example I've given you is Mrs. Mann, our headmistress, enjoys playing the piano. Note, I have included capital letters, commas, and a full stop. We quite often have students starting year 10 thinking that things like capital letters, commas and full stops aren't important and they don't need to bother with them. Well, here's the thing, folks, they absolutely do matter and they absolutely will make a difference to the grade that you get. So we really need to start making sure, if you are one of those criminals who doesn't bother with capital letters, commas and full stops, that you get that sorted, please. You can't keep on ignoring it forever. What I would like you to do is work your way through the other 5 examples there, creating sentences out of those 3 sections, making sure that you have 2 commas in every sentence, and those 2 commas separate the subordinate part of the sentence from the other 2 sections, from the first part and from the final part. Okay? And here is your support page for you to go ahead and mark them. It might be you've got the names slightly different, although I don't think Hercules is likely to be the name of your headmaster. And obviously Tom and Jane has got to go with my uncle and aunt, because that's the only example of 2 names being given. Okay, so mark those please, and then on with the next slide. You don't need to create a new subheading for this slide. This work just continues on from the previous piece of work. So here I have given you 9 sentences. Each of these sentences contains a subordinate clause, and your job is to write those sentences out, placing the commas around the subordinate clause so that your reader will take a breath in before starting to read the subordinate clause, and will then take a breath out after they have read it. And the importance of that is that it helps your reader to make sense of the words you are writing. By making them pause, you give them thinking time to absorb the information that you are giving them. Okay? Notice in the box at the bottom, just to help you with this task if you get a little bit confused, you should be able to remove that subordinate clause and the sentence will still make sense. So if you look at my example there, Mrs. Gardner, breathe in, who loves reading, breathe in, had a small library of books in her study. If I pinch the commas and who loves reading together and take that out, I am left with Mrs. Gardner had a small library of books in her study, and that still makes sense. The subordinate clause just adds an extra bit of information to a sentence. Okay, so you need to write those 9 out, and you need to put a double comma in all of the sentences showing the beginning and the end of the subordinate clause. Here's your helping page, your support page. Again, go through carefully, check your answers against the answers here. There isn't really an alternative. You need to have done what I've done here, okay? So check that you've got those in the correct place, listening for that sense that those commas create. Right, that's it for today, folks. Just recapping on your writing tools. These aren't just useful, necessary tools for this piece of writing. These are tools for every piece of writing you do. When you get to your GCSE exams, your English language papers are out of 160 marks. 80 of those marks, so 50% of your marks, are for writing tasks. So you need to make sure that exciting, ambitious vocabulary, different sentence types, different sentence openers, different paragraph lengths, different uses of commas are all being included in every piece of writing that you do from now on. See you tomorrow.